become champions. Oh, 67. And then he's a Westman. The first game in the thousands. Casino would become champions. Celtic way, wait for the ball from side to side, and until they try to hide, the wait for the ball from front to back, attack, 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 67, and then he's a Westman, the first game in the thousands, Casino would become champions, 67.
Hello, welcome to the Celtic Rumours TV podcast. We're just Paul's having a wee bit of problems with his laptop and that. He'll be just on shortly. Jonas, you there, Jonas? Aye.
Aye, mate.
Aye, so thanks very much for coming on, Jonas. I never really gave it a thought, usually, just because you usually only come on when Mikey's about, do you know what I mean?
That's no problem, mate.
There's Paul there, I think.
Right, sorry about that there.
Is that you there, bud?
Yeah, will I start?
Right. Aye, Paul, aye. I just explained your laptop was resetting. On you go, bud, just get it going.
Hello and welcome to episode 122 of Celtic Rumours TV, the Bawz and Bovril podcast with your host Mark and myself, Paul. Join us tonight. We have Dundee United fan Jonas, who I presume is a happy man after 2 wins in a row and dragged them out of the relegation zone this weekend. You can also check out all the links to the podcasts in the description below, including our forum page, www.celticrumours.co.uk. On tonight's show, we will look at today's 4-1 victory against Kilmarnock. Jürgen Klinsmann was at attendance today. How does he feel about all and Scottish football in a whole? Japanese coach Himin Moiyazu plans to travel to Celtic Park and around York to have a look at Japanese players for the upcoming international fixtures. And of course, we'll finish off the show. We'll talk to Jonas about Dundee United's good form, I think, under Jim Goodwin, and their push to avoid relegation this season after the split. Firstly, though, I'll hand off to Mark for a few shout-outs.
Thanks very much, Paul. Thanks again to Jonas for coming on. A few shout-outs to some of the lads for the forum, old Tim Alloy, Richie, a Glasgow Green, B John United Ireland. B John lost his cousin the other day, which it's a bit of a shame. So I don't know if you're listening, John, but all the lads are thinking about you this time, mate. Can't it be easy? B man was away down the West Highland way himself all week too. His pal was meant to be going with him and he never turned up, so he was away doing it himself, and I was worried sick about him all week in case he was going to end up getting disappeared up in this West Highland way, just doing it all himself. And I was texting him to keep up with him and that, and then as soon as you get him on Friday, find that out about his nephew, that's a bit of his cousin, I mean, so it's a bit of a shame. Bobby, in the live chat, nice to see you, Bobby. Michael McKinstry, I forgot who that is in the forum, Paul, you'll need to mind me who that is. And there, Mikey Conroy, and nice to see you again, Mikey. Mickey 87, isn't it, Michael McKinstry, isn't it? I'm sure that's who it is. That's everything, Paul. Just on you go on with
it. Kilmarnock 1, Celtic 4 goals from Kyogo in the 7th minute, Hayate in the 12th, and 2 goals from Matt O'Reilly on the 18th and 27th. Ange ran in the changes to his lineup. Hart, Janssen, Stalford, Kobayashi coming in for his second appearance. Taylor Arata starting in midfield, replacing Moy, O'Reilly and McGregor. Haksabanovic starting, Maeda and Kyogo up front. Young Ben Summers and Rocco Vetta made the bench along with O, Bain, Turnbull, Barnaby, Radisson and Stephen Welch. A flying start by Celtic, leading comfortably 4-0. Were kind of a mix-up by captain Callum McGregor just before half-time, making it 4-1 going into the break. Second half was kind of usual by Celtic, kind of slipping off, as you can see there at the start. Possession 23% to Celtic 77. shots, 14 to Celtic, 16 shots on target to their 5 to Celtic's 6. Celtic had actually 7 shots off targets, which is kind of a bit of a concern there as well. Corners 4 to Celtic's 5, and fouls 13 to Celtic's 15. Again, Marcus, look, I'll start with you first because it's Celtic, but again, it's a game of two halves of Celtic in this. Like, do they do it on purpose? The game is won, we slip off a bit, but you kind of perform to go and get more goals and kind of punish teams, won't you?
I thought so, Paul. I said on the live chat during the game, I was looking for 10. See, when we were 3-0 up after so quick, I mean, I detest that McKenna. I hate him with a vengeance, and I was hoping we were going to get 10. But I mean, it seems to be quite a regular occurrence, Paul. It's like Celtic only play like one half of a game, and that's I mean, that second half of the day, it was really poor, really poor. If you go on for where we won the first half, and then this kind of slack passing started coming into our game in that as well, I thought, in the second half. But I mean, fair dues, the game was won and lost, Paul, but if fans keeps going with this, we never stop stuff. For me, we stopped after half time. And I know we made substitutions and packed the defence and that, but I just thought we kind of just we weren't even in second gear in that second half, Paul. We were in third gear if we were lucky. Really poor.
I suppose you notice what Mark is saying there, like supporting your team, like you want your team giving 100% every game. Like, I know the game was run, like, but you don't want kind of slackness and slipping off coming into your team's performance either, do you?
No, you want to be a level of consistency throughout the performance, and sometimes it can be hard when you're that far up. Psychologically, it can be difficult sort of mentally to keep yourself going when the game is gone sometimes, especially if you make a lot of changes. It sort of like disrupts the rhythm and stuff a wee bit. But like I say, being 4-1 up at half time, you would probably fancy them to come out and get another couple of goals, but they seem to just sort of coast through the second half.
Mark, there's one player we have to mention today, and the live chat is kind of going on about him, but what a star performance today by Young Awash inside that midfield. Could have got a goal, deserved a goal to his performance today, but he was outstanding today, wasn't he?
I was surprised he didn't get man of the match, Paul. I was really. It was O'Reilly that got it.
Probably just for the 2 goals, I suppose.
Saying that, I think O'Reilly did a good game as well. He seems to bear that wee lull that he was going through, and the 2 goals will surely help that as well. But I totally agree. Hayate was different gravy the day, he really was. Another player, a bit like Alistair Johnson, he's just, I mean, I know he's made a couple of wee cameos and appearances and stuff like that, but it was as if he'd been playing that Celtic team for years.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something Ange does there, but I mean, well, AJ, he just came in and went straight into the team, but other players, I mean, Awate's took a bit of time. Maybe that's what it's been. Ange's just getting them ready. But
I think as well, Mark, like we have to look at kind of the same thing with Hayate and Deeson Maeda from last season. He's played a full season in Japan and signed for Celtic in January. I mean, so was Ange kind of going from previous experience with the 2 lads coming in late last season that he had to play them, know that he didn't have to play Hayate straight away, when he was kind of breeding into that team?
It might have been. But I mean, he definitely looks like a player. He really does.
Like, for such a young...
Did you see that? Did you watch the Celtic game, Jonas?
Yeah, I did see it, yeah.
Aye. What did you think of Hayate?
He looked good, He looks a bit like, he's similar in style to Hayate, that sort of way he plays in that, Quite similar in the way they sort of play the two of them, and he looks like another sort of good addition,
Like, what impressed me, Mark, today about him was his movement off the ball. You know, I'm big into that, Mark, like watching people's movement off the ball, how we play Ange's system. But when Starfelt or Kobayashi had the ball, Hayate was telling them where to put it. Do you know what I mean? He made one, and the ball was going the other way. Like, for such a young lad,
I thought Kobayashi played really well as well.
I thought Kobayashi was outstanding today, Mark. I've a few stats done in him there that I go through down a few minutes there, but he's another player, Mark, that didn't step out the line today, But then again...
And as well as Paul, it's like I think Starfelt plays a lot better when he's in that right-hand side as well.
But for like Starfelt again, Mark, today he showed leadership when Cameron Vickers wasn't there.
Aye.
You know, he showed that he's the kind of most experienced head in there. You know, but most too, Mark, when you have a player like Johnstone and Greg Taylor behind either side of you as well, it's going to help you.
It's helping. Aye.
You know, but we have to talk about Haksabanovic, Mark. He got a start today. But I think it's fair to say, Mark, he's not suited to that right-hand side. I think he played better when he went off to the left today.
I don't think he really played that well at all today,
No.
Paul. I've been looking forward to seeing him getting a bit of run in the team and that, but he wasn't at the races today. He really wasn't anywhere near it.
Mm-hmm. What is it, Mark? Like, is he more of an impact player coming off the bench when the game is run? Is he better that way?
We don't really know, Paul, because until he gets a run in the team, we don't see enough of him. Do you know what I mean? Maybe if he gets a run in, I don't think there's anything wrong with the guy's confidence. I mean, he's still, do you know what I mean? He seems to be a kind of confident in his own ability and what he's doing on the park, but it just didn't seem to work for him at all today. Don't know whether, as I said, it's give him a run in the team, to let him settle in and get to know his teammates a bit better or that, but I wasn't impressed with him at all today.
You know, I agree with you, Mark. Like, he's never really had a run in the team either. You know, to kind of show us what he can. It's always kind of 20-minute chemos, 15-minute chemos when the game was won. Like, but it's 2 starts now, really, Mark, that he's got. And he had the one against Hearts as well there a couple of weeks back, and he kind of didn't kind of take off in that game either. If you could remember that, it wasn't kind of his best game.
Then Mick87 saying it could have been the pitch for Haksabanovic. I mean, you've always got to throw that in when you're playing against. I just think
Kilmarnock. I've said it before, Mark, and I've said it a long time. And I don't know, like, has Jonas seen much of him? But for me, Mark, I think he'd be much better, more central in a more O'Reilly role or more Hayate
I'd like to see him in there. I'd like to see him here in the middle. Aye.
No, I just think he just seems that player, Mark, that he's physique and he can pick out a pass. He's a great passer of the ball. That maybe a more central role would be suitable. I don't know, Jonas, have you seen much of Haksabanovic, and what do you think from the outside? Would you think he'd be more suited to a more central role?
It's probably just a case of the fact that, like, he needs a run of games because it's hard. If you're, I heard the commentator say something like that was his first start in the league since November, so it's now April. So it's going to be difficult to have any sort of consistency if you're not playing regularly. But then again, it's difficult to get into the team when the team's winning, so you've got to try and sort of take those chances. But I think he would probably benefit from a run. Like, you know what I mean? Definitely.
I was watching. It's not often, Mark, I watch a pre-match conference from another manager. Like, but for some reason, I left on his because he's he's another Hun manager. Do you get me? He never praises Celtic for what we do or how we play. And he said should have been sent off today for that. I think that sent off would have been harsh if I was sent off today, Mark, for that.
I really didn't even think it was a yellow card, Paul, to be honest. It wasn't as if
intentional or something.
It was no intention in it. The guys just went to play the ball. His foot was a bit high, but it was a kind of 50-50 ball, I thought. But there was no way it was a red card. At the most, it was a booting.
You know, what is it like, Jonas, like that they don't praise Celtic for what they do? Do you know what I mean? Like, we had who was your manager with Jonas that said he managed down in no, it was Lee Johnson, Mark. What did the Hibs manager said he managed down in teams down in England, and this is the best Celtic team. He's the best team he came up with rather than Man City. But we seem to never get praised, Jonas, up in Scotland for what we do, you know, by other managers.
It's probably just a case of, McKenna is that sort of manager that he doesn't really give anybody any credit, does he? It's always about his team. It's one of those managers as well where nothing's ever his fault, you know what I mean? It's like, so
greeting face, the word, isn't it, Jonas? That's the Scottish term, a greeting face, bam.
He is. And the thing is as well, I think he did lay into his own team and said how poorly they were and stuff like that. So, but I didn't really listen to much of what he said. But like I say, I think the position that they're in and stuff like that as well, he's obviously you know what I mean, they're fighting for their life. So they get spanked for, and some of the manner of some of the goals that they conceded. I mean, the first one, the boy was on the edge of the box and he tried to pass back to the goalkeeper, just like ridiculous. I understand why he was angry.
Another thing too, Jonas, like just what you're saying there, the team is fighting for relegation, and you had a half-empty stadium, and you see Dundee United fans, they're coming out in their thousands to support their team, to get behind the team, to keep them up. You know, and it's just another thing for me, Mark. Like, you know, it's on television. There's going to be people watching it. You've a player, a manager from South Korea, Jürgen Klinsmann, who's won everything, Mark. You know, that there is to win in football. He's been to the best leagues. He's played in the best stadiums. And
can you imagine what he thought when he saw that pitch?
But that's what I'm saying.
Aye.
That was my opinion on it, Mark. Like fair enough, he was coming to watch. But what did he think of SBL football on the whole today? Like, coming to see that plastic pitch, an empty stadium, more Celtic fans than the home team. As Jonas said there, they're fighting for relegation. Get behind your team, you know. But
it wasn't much an advert for the Scottish game, right enough, innit?
No, like what do you think? Like, I know I felt sorry for today, Mark, because he wanted to impress Klinsmann, right? And Celtic kind of took their foot off the gas. Like, if we were putting those balls that we did into all in the second half, he could have got about 2 or 3 goals there today. You know?
If we had started the game, Paul, we would have probably had a couple of goals. You know, as you said, I felt a bit sorry for him as well, that the team didn't really continue playing that way, because when he came on, I thought he was going to get 1 or 2 goals. I definitely did.
He just impressed Klinsmann as well, Mark. You know.
And I think that was probably Angie's thinking. We'll give him kind of the second half, because he never does it. He does it, Mark. I mean, so he must have said, I need to give him a decent
go in there and impress Klinsmann there, and you deserve it. Like, you know what I mean? And then, like, you Celtic team kind of don't create the chances that we're so used to, you know. But I don't know, Mark. Like, if you're having these internationals managers, Jonas, coming over, and if they're coming into hit we say half-empty stadiums, it's not looking good, Jonas, is this?
I think as well, though, what probably a lot of people have looked at is, I mean, they've probably looked at that game, a lot of fans, and written that game off, and they've probably thought to themselves, you know what, I'm not even going to bother going, because before we get a doing, it's a daft time, it's dinner time on a Sunday. That's personally, for me, my worst kick-off time. I hate a Sunday dinner time kick-off, and they probably just wrote it off, thinking, you know what, we're not going to get in. The way we're playing as well, we're not going to get anything from the game. So a lot of the fans probably, which isn't the right attitude in my opinion, but that'll probably be some of the reason why there wasn't a great crowd there, like, you know.
I don't. Sorry, I was eating something there. But like, we never see it, Mark, at Dundee United, an empty stadium. Do you know what I mean? We never see it at Hearts. We never see an empty stadium at Aberdeen. You know, for a team that's fighting relegation, Mark, like, you would expect them to come out and support the team, like, you know, like. But do you agree, Mark, that is this giving a bad image on SBL, like, that we have these managers now coming over for watching their international players, and this is what they're looking at, half-empty stadiums? Like, are they right to judge the SBL like the Japanese manager did?
Well, you can see their point when they do, Paul. You know what I mean? You can see the Japanese manager's point as well, but as we spoke about, if the league's that bad, why does he continue to pick Maeda? Kilmarnock's a weird club, Paul. They've always been they've always been weird. There's probably more buses leave for Ibrox on a Saturday or Sunday than there is go to, like, actual Kilmarnock ground, you know what I mean?
I was going to say that as well, actually, when you asked me about that as well. They suffer from the fact that they're right in, like, sort of Texas chainsaw country, as it were, and a lot of people there tend to, like you say, go and watch Rangers. So there's not actually that many. I mean, if the city of Kilmarnock, if the footballing base of that city, if more of them supported their local team, then they would get a decent crowd. You know what I mean?
Aye. And it helps their money, helps them become a bigger team, helps them grow as a club.
Get
and that.
better players and things like that. Get more through the gates, generate more revenue and stuff like that. So
Yeah, that's what I was
did
going
you
to
see
say.
that-
Like Mark, like we have all these fans, managers, and teams coming out saying we can't compete with Celtic and Rangers, and like, well then support your team.
That's
Like,
what,
do you know
that's
what I
what I
mean?
was just. But that's what I was just going to say there, Paul. Did you see kind of the stuff that Hearts were coming out of when they sacked Nielsen?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they weren't impressed with like his approach to playing Rangers and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, but Mark, we were only talking about that
Aye.
just before that team got sacked last week. Like we were
But
saying, like
I mean,
they turn up for Celtic, Mark, and they play a good game against Celtic,
I
and
think
then
he
you know what I
dropped
mean?
5 or 6 players for the following week and changes the full way they played when they were playing Rangers and that.
And you know
And-
what, Mark? Fair dues to the chairman for coming out saying it
Aye,
as well. Do you know what I mean?
definitely. It was like a breath of fresh air. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think of that, Jonas? We spoke about that before. Why these teams don't try and have a go at Rangers when they're in these kind of positions they're in.
yeah, well, the likes of Hearts, like I mean, this season they've been absolutely battered off Rangers, like 4-0 at home, and they've been poor against them all year. And they usually tend to give them a decent game, but I think. Is that what their chairman said? He wasn't happy with the way that they were setting
Yeah,
up.
like he was saying, like he was saying, like you understand, we go to Celtic Park, we gave him a right go in the semi-final, we gave him a go in the league, and then we go to Rangers, and we just don't even attack their box. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right, yeah.
if they want to be the third best team, Jonas, they have to compete against every team. Do you get me? You know, and they just never did, Mark. They didn't, like.
No, yeah. That's for me. It's 100. That's 100,000,000% down to Nielsen's choices and decisions.
Definitely.
We spoke about it before. Is it like a psychological barrier with some of these managers that they just think, well, the best we can hope for is just third place?
Well, Mark, you look at it, right? You look at it, right? I was looking at it there today, right? You had Derek Innes, right? Robbie Needson, the lad from Livingston, is it?
Martindale. Like,
they're all, you could say, like Ranger supporters, and their teams never stand up against Rangers.
No.
You know, I remember that time I told you, Mark, he came out one day and he said at least Rangers got the 3 points to try to close the gap until Celtic. And I'm looking going, if I was a Livy fan and my man just said that, do you know what I mean? You know, and I was looking going, Jesus Christ, like, you know what I mean? You know, you wouldn't see it nowhere else. Like, you know what I mean? Imagine that, Jonas, being said down in the Premier League.
No, it's nonsense. Like you'd be furious if you were a supporter of that club as well, because it would just be like, well, come on, is there any point in me even going to watch my team against these teams then, if that's what the manager's attitude is? You know what I mean?
It's unbelievable that it's kind of it's became accepted, but in the Scottish game, and that's the weird thing about it. It's something. I mean, you can't turn around and say you can't be a manager because you support another team or that, but it's weird.
I know, Mark, but you don't show lines. You know what I mean? You don't show lines. Like, this is your job. Do you know what I mean? You know, like it's like me merchandising another company's products and taking all my space. Do you know what I mean? That's basically it. Like,
they should. I think the best thing. I know they've tried it before in that over the years, but is like. Go like for teams like Hearts and that is to go for like either good young Scottish managers that are going to just trying to make their name for themselves, or go for a foreigner. Do you know what I mean? Somebody that's not got any kind of ties to either side in Scotland. Because as long as Hearts and Aberdeen and that are caught in, even Dundee United are caught in this kind of wee management merry-go-round and that, they're never going to challenge anything.
You're just talking there now with what you're saying. Like, look at Barry Robson there now for Aberdeen.
Aye, you know, but Barry Robson's the type of guy that see if he was playing. Barry Robson was the type of guy who would batter you if you beat him at Tiddlywinks. Do you know what I mean? It's just his attitude. He's just a winner. He doesn't care, right? Whether he's Dundee United, whether it's Celtic, whether it's whoever, if he's playing against them as a manager or a player, all he wants to do is win. And that's the kind of attitude that should be. Do you know what I mean? There's no way Barry Robson's got to come down and kind of right, I'll drop my 6 best players because we're playing Celtic at the weekend. The next, do you know, that's never going to happen. What Robbie Nielsen done at Hearts.
No, one thing there. I just have to say is do you know what's impressive? 102 goals. We have 10 clean sheets, and I think it's a goal difference now of plus 78. If I'm right, is it?
Yeah, aye, it's about that. Aye,
It's about that. Yeah, I think, Mark, we're
70.
goal difference. Yeah, I can't get across.
Aye,
Yeah, 78.
78.
And
Aye.
if we're actually level now, Mark, I think on the Lisbon Lions run, all right. So we're level on that, and if we score another 14 goals, it'll be a club record.
My fancy is to do that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why we shouldn't do it the way we're playing for half a game every game.
You know, I think. Look, Jonas, I think that's what's been impressive by this Celtic team, especially this season, is that there's goals around the squad. You know.
Aye, they seem to get the goals seem to be quite evenly spread out. You're not relying on, whereas some teams rely on maybe one striker to get all the goals, and then there's a crisis when the boy gets injured or something because there's not enough of a contribution. But they seem to be getting goals from different areas of the pitch, which always helps. Aye.
Mm-hmm. No, I just had to get that out, Mark. That's impressive, right? That really is. Like 100 goals already, like, you know, and 10 clean sheets. I actually thought we had more, but we actually don't. You know, maybe if Joe Hart saved the penalty, Mark, we probably could have had more.
To be fair, I know, but Paul, it's one of the worst. The standard of the league's one of the worst it's been for a long, long time as well.
It has really, Mark, hasn't it?
Really, I mean, it's like any team, apart from probably us, right, and you could probably throw Rangers into that. Apart from that, but any other team's capable of beating any other team. You know what I mean? But the actual overall standard, I don't know, Jonas, what you feel about it, but the actual overall standard of the SPFL is really, really poor.
But Mark, is that coming down to a bit of combination of everything that we talked about throughout the whole season, right? The standard of SPL. We're looking at today an empty stadium, poor decisions by referees, poor decisions by VAR. You know what I mean? Is it all kind of grouped together, like the standard of football in the SPL? Like, you know, not just the teams, but the overall SPL function.
It could be. Yeah, the way Sky promote the game doesn't help either.
Yeah. You know, I was actually reading.
I mean, the Edinburgh Derby, it wasn't even on the telly. Yeah, that's shocking, isn't it, Jonas?
Nonsense. That was a nonsense. I don't understand. We were talking about this yesterday going through to the United game. Why, like, also, just inconvenience and supporters as well. Why are you making it a 12 o'clock kickoff for fans when it's not going to be televised? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
If it's not going to be televised, then play it at 3 o'clock. But the fact that it wasn't picked for TV coverage was poor, in my opinion, yeah, for a game of that size.
Well, Mark, they did that loads of times this season. Remember the midweek game there was Hearts and Rangers, and they didn't bother showing it. There was actually no game on that week, like, you know.
Buzz puts the stats up on the forum and that, and if Sky took back over the coverage, Paul, they've no met the criteria.
No, they've never had.
They never show the full agreed package amount of games.
I'm sure there was something like 8 games short of their quota last year.
Yeah, last year. And they didn't even show the relegation battles back down there. They were good relegation battles last season. You know? I
mean, they missed that by 8 games. I mean, all Sky bother about is getting the derby games. Anything else, they don't really give a stuff about Scotland. I really don't think.
No, that's true.
You can see. Even when it was with BT, you could see the difference. BT were trying to help promote the Scottish game and stuff like that. Well, Chris Sutton does a good job of getting a bit of kind of interest in it going, but the difference in the coverage between Sky and BT is night and day. It really is. And I still going and signing that new Sky deal when they did that was just absolutely bonkers, Paul. You've been on about that. You thought that
via play, yeah.
Aye, we're going to maybe make a move and stuff like that.
Yeah, but there's a thing now, Mark, that I think there's is there 3 years, I think, left in the Sky Premier League rights, and the rumour is the Premier League themselves are looking for different sources to stream the Premier League. And Sky are actually going mental over it, like they're going ballistic over it, like, you know, that hope you do this, like
Our league or the pub league?
the pub league.
Oh,
The
right.
pub league, yeah, that they don't know, like, if they give the contract to Sky thing like that, they might look at different things like via Play now, sell more rights to Amazon, who actually have rights now at this moment. They show a few games on the streaming service. You know, like, it was scandalous out of the SPL mark to just sign that contract straight away without looking to see what was out there. You know?
Aye, absolutely stupidness. Just it's just kind of short-sightedness that you expect for Scotland, Paul. For the guys that run the Scottish game, I mean, if there's a wrong decision to make, they'll make it, innit, Jonas? That's basically how it has been for years.
No, correct. And the problem is, like I say, as soon as they wave a wee bit of cash in their face, they just take the first deal. It was like, remember years ago when they signed that contract with Setanta Sports instead of Sky, because Setanta promised the money quicker, and then Setanta folded, and it caused a lot of clubs problems. Whereas if it went with Sky back then, they would have had the bigger deal, which was like 115 million. And then Sky turned around and, well, Kim, what you sniffed at us last time, so here's a new contract, which is worth about 50 million or something. Take it or leave it. They shot themselves in the foot by, instead of going to be an established broadcaster like Sky and getting the same deal as they were getting from Setanta, they signed that Setanta contract because they were waving the money at them, and then the company folded whatever 2 years into the deal or whatever it was, and then Sky turned around and said, well, here's an offer for half what we gave you first time. So, scandalous.
Should have had to take it then, you understand? Because they had no one else there then at the time. Like, so they didn't, there was no one else there, was there?
Aye, that's it. They played right into their hands. No, I mean, it's like, if you go and buy something, Paul, you can't, and then you find it cheaper somewhere else. You can't go and just take one of your boat back. Do you know what I mean? But it's just, again, it's just the people that, it's like a wee bowling club. That's what the Scottish football seems to be run like. And it's just until we get people in that can have like a bigger, a look at the bigger picture, or even fun is the bigger picture. We're just always going to be going round in circles, scrimping and scraping and taking like the crumbs off of the tables that we get flung at us, and it's no right.
Also, Mark, what I liked about today's thing as well was the two young lads, Rocco Vessa and Ben Summers, coming on. You know, that Ange now seems to be kind of bringing in, either if they're not on the bench, they're getting a bit of game time, Mark, which is something we've been speaking about for years on the podcast. It's good to actually see it happen now.
Aye, definitely. That's how young players, that helps them progress, Paul. Even maybe not even getting on, but just being in about the first team, the full day, the full match day experience, how it is to be in the first team and how it all works, and to go on and get a bit of game time is just a bonus. But that's what it's an important, very important part of players' progression for a young player. It really is, and it's something that Celtic have not really done it for years. We've had that many managers that weren't into youth players, and that's the kind of way it went. But Ange said something the other week. He says, I'm not just doing this for the kind of sake of ticking a box of putting young players in it. They're at the level now that that's where they need to be.
Yeah, he's not doing it, Mark, just for the sake of it. He said, isn't it, that if they get into it, like, and to be fair, Ben Summers now has been getting a good few goals and been playing well. I think Rocco Vessa would have got more game time, Mark, bar he was kind of injured the last couple of months, but it's actually good to see him back because he looks like a nice young talent, Mark. Hopefully that will come through the ranks.
Aye, hopefully. I mean, he's well rated. There's a few well rated players, Paul. Summers, we've got Big Boss and Low and that as well. And who's the other young guy that everybody raves about? Somebody in the chat will know his name. I keep forgetting the guy's name. But it was only the day. I found out that there was that wee Ben Summers that
played Tommy Bawz.
Aye. Yeah. I only found that out the day, Paul. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I played Tommy Bawz in the Celtic documentary, wasn't it?
Aye.
You know, Japanese manager. Christ, how am I going to pronounce this? Like Higgy. I'm not even research a Japanese manager, right? plans to travel to Europe before the end of the season. He also wants to travel to Celtic, where he wishes to speak to Ange about his players, Kyogo, Maeda, Hayate, Iwata and Kobayashi. He hopes to build a proper relation with Celtic and the Celtic manager, Ange Postecoglou, because of his recent comments about the standard of Scottish football and the players played in it. Is he trying to build bridges here, Mark, or what's the thing? Because if you look at right, when we signed Iwata, he was the next big thing, Mark, coming out of Japan. All right, the superstar, the young player coming up, and if he doesn't get into the upcoming squads, Mark, does this fella have a bias against Scottish football? Is what I'm saying. Then, you know.
Well, I don't know, Paul. I don't think so. I really don't. I think well, it's like why Kyogo doesn't get in his team, because it doesn't suit his system.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just an international manager isn't he just going to pull a player in, call a player up into his squad because he's doing well for his club, but it doesn't suit his. Do you get what I mean? There's no point.
Well, that's what I said, Mark. Like, why doesn't he come out and just say that Hayate and Kyogo don't suit my style of play? You know, and then we go, fair enough. Like, but to be so critical of the league and the standard of football, it shouldn't be like, because that's for me, Mark, enticing them then to leave the club to get into international football. Do you get, you know?
It might do, especially for like people coming from Japan. It's a massive honour for them to represent their country and that. But well, there, Iwata get 2 caps in 2019 and 2 caps in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think
he's not exactly.
young, like, no, I know that. Yeah, it's kind of late. It's kind of late. So they break into the international team, Mark.
But he's 26, Paul.
Yeah, he's not young either. Like,
I mean, I know it does take time for they get through that kind of college system and that in Japan and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm just looking at it now. You get 3 caps for the under 23s, 7 for the under 19s, and 5 for the under 15s. I mean, he's not really caught. I know he's get kind of player of the year in Japan, but he's never really had a run in the national team to back that up. If you know, does that make sense? I'm not saying he's not he shouldn't have got player of the year, but you think a player of the year in the league would be a kind of international stalwart, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. I just think, Mark, he's just so defensive. He's just such a defensive manager, Mark, and just as you said there, like they just don't suit his system. You know,
I think that really is all it is.
You know, but the thing I'm getting out about is he's critical of the league, right? But then he's picking Dyson Maeda. Like, is like that's going to stay like the likes of Kyogo, like maybe or Hayate, maybe I have to leave Celtic to get into this Japanese team, which it really isn't, because they just don't suit his system. You know?
Yeah, and I think the league comments are a bit hypocritical, because, like you say, why would you come out and slag the league, but then you pick a guy that plays in the league? So that's a lot of nonsense in my opinion. And I think, like I say, I've watched Japan and they are very defensive. He just doesn't. If you don't suit the boy's system, you don't suit his system. So I don't think that if they move to a different country, it's not going to make any difference to them, because they're not going to get in his team if they don't suit the way he plays. So I think it's irrelevant in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Because, Mark, we think Ange is stubborn, but from what I was reading from the lads on Twitter, and like that, this fella is stubborn. Like, no way like would he back down with the Japanese FA that time of his World Cup squad either.
That's it. I mean, they're Mickey 87 saying the Japan manager took pelters out there for not including Hayate and Kyogo.
Yeah, I sure remember I said that.
Did it not even get brought up like their version of Parliament?
Did Parliament and everything got involved with Kyogo and everything, saying that they wanted a meeting with the manager to find out why Kyogo was, and basically said, if he bring Kyogo into my team, I leave. Just before the World Cup. You know, and I'm actually surprised, Mark, that they actually kept him on because of all the controversy in and around the World Cup. But as you said there, Mark, like just after the World Cup, he proved his point, really. Like, they got a good run in the World Cup, like, didn't they? You know?
So, the boy, but he was vindicated. They're a big word for me, yeah. But he was vindicated in the World Cup for not taking him. People say, but if they took him, maybe they've got further than that. I mean, who was it that put them out? Jonas, you'll know that off the top of your head, probably.
I think it was
Croatia, I think, was it?
Yeah, Croatia on penalties. Yeah,
Oh, no, it was,
Yeah, it was penalties. Croatia put them
aye,
out. Yeah.
aye,
You know,
I mean,
so they
they beat Spain. In fact,
yeah, they
They
beat
did, yeah.
Spain the round before. Yeah, aye.
beat Germany. Do you know what? They beat Germany and beat Spain, and people are just. Is that Paul? I don't want them to get into the national teams either. Do you know what I mean? We've spoken.
I know
about
that,
as well.
Mark. Yeah,
Aye,
but like
I know it's a
my
big thing for
concern and
them.
thing like
Aye.
is that, like as you said, they're like for the Japanese players, Mark. It's an honor it's an honor, Jonas, for any football to represent their country, and if you're not getting called up to the Scottish team, and if your man just coming out saying those stuff about the league, Mark, you are going thinking maybe I have to move to a better league. You know.
Well, he doesn't seem to pick many actual Japanese-based players either, does he?
No, he kind of everywhere, really, Mark. One day he picked that lad from Brighton and the lad from Arsenal to not getting in. He's not getting into that Arsenal team either, but the lad from Brighton,
boy
Jonas,
for
is very
Brighton,
good.
he's a good player. That boy for Brighton.
Matoma, yeah, he is a good player.
You know, I see he's doing some job there actually, ain't he? Zebra, ain't he? With Brighton, ain't he? Fairness to him.
Aye.
You know, nice team to. Is it 2 wins now, Mark? I think is it 2 more wins? The league is done and dusted, is it? Or we win the league against Hearts or something? Is that?
Well, I've not even looked into when we actually win the league, Paul.
You know,
We don't just because it's a foregone conclusion, really, isn't it?
You know, it's not kind of when, it's kind of not if, it's kind of when. Like, it, you know, would you like it to be at Ibrox, Mark, and beat them at Ibrox to win the league, or?
Aye, that would be all right, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That would be a bit. That would be a laugh. I could see, be honest, but Paul, that I don't. There'd be pitch invasions and everything if that was happening at Ibrox, I reckon.
Jeez, I imagine if the SPL won't let that in, Mark. You know, especially when there's no Celtic fans there now and everything, and like, all the stuff there last week, Jonas, with Kevin Clancy, which is just ridiculous, Jonas, isn't it? Like targeting the fella's house and sending him death threats, his wife death threats, his kids. It's gone a bit too far with the club now at this stage, isn't it?
See, at the end of the day, right, referees have bad games, and I'm one of the biggest critics of referees, especially media and things, and I'll give them pelters, but I would never ever go as far as giving them personal abuse, and you'll shout your piece from the stands and you'll maybe rant and rave about them on social media, but that's as far as it goes. You're certainly not going to start trying to find out where the boy lives or try, you know what I mean? It's taking it too far, eh?
Mm-hmm. Really has, Mark, can't it? Like, and he didn't ref this week, Mark. He took the weekend off. But you know, like as Jonas says there, Mark, we scream about referees and we scream but to do that, what they did, like target his house, his wife, or her job, and you know, it's
scumbag behaviour. That.
But Mark, like, why aren't the SPL coming out punishing the club because of this? You know, it's like brushed under the carpet. The police are dealing with it, or let the police deal with it, you know?
No, but fair dues, the police are dealing with it, and I've no doubt that they'll appear in the media in that cases in a couple of months of folk getting done for it, I really do. But because it's not covered with, what is it called again? Strict liability, isn't it? That's what they call it. They've not got that in Scotland. That's how... Was it a Croatian team that came out and a couple of their fans get stabbed when they were playing Rangers? It's like that. If it's knowing the footprint of the stadium or something like that, Jonas, the club can't be held responsible for it because it's strict liability. That's what they call it. I'm sure that's the club's kind of responsible for their fans' behaviour. So if the fans do something, the club do get held responsible for it. But I'm sure, I don't know if it actually went to a vote with the Scottish teams, but I don't know if it went that far, but there wasn't that many clubs that were keen on it.
No.
Did we talk to Johnny Fenley about that, Mark, that time when she was on, didn't we?
Aye.
You know, like, would you be in favour of that come to Scotland, or?
Oh, To be honest, I would. As long as it wasn't stupid things like singing songs, unless it's really sick songs. You get what I mean? But you can't. It's like you can't find Celtic for a group of guys walking down the street singing a rebel song. Do you know what I mean? And even down to the same extent, you can't hold Rangers responsible for a wee crowd of guys walking down the street singing an Orange song. But can you mind that thing when they were in the tunnel singing the famine song and the police were all there?
Exactly.
Right, things like that. Slammed down.
Exactly. You know,
I'd crack down on things like that, and then if they're making their way to the stadium in an organised group, I mean, basically breaking the law, and the police are marching aside them and giving them an escort to the stadium and stuff like that. I'd like to see stuff like that get brought in to cover that, but it's not. I mean, it was like that offensive behaviour bill thing, Jonas. That was a load of garbage, wasn't it? You'll have been right in about that as well, I take it.
Aye, that was a lot of nonsense, because the problem with that kind of thing is it's like, where do you draw the line? You know what I mean? There's too many grey areas, you know what I mean? And it's too subjective as well. What one person might deem offensive behaviour might not be deemed the same. So yeah, that was never going to work. It was just there was too many grey areas surrounding that.
Especially now as well, where the way the world is going. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's getting offended over everything, Mark. You know?
It's easy. I mean, we've probably said a couple of things tonight that people could get offended at. What is it? It's like woke into. That's what they call it. Woke.
Aye.
I mean, I'm quite a liberal guy with my politics and stuff like that. But I've said to Jacqueline I'm glad I don't go to the house in that now, because I'd be saying just things normally. I mean, many times have I said things to you, Paul, and the two of us have laughed at it, and you're like, oh, and even you've done it with me. You're younger than me. Seems to be like an age thing. It's just, and Twitter's rife with it as well. Just anything I thought to get offended at, and some people are going to pounce on it. And as soon as a couple pounce on it, it's kind of snowballs and becomes an issue.
Yeah. It really, really has. This year, as well, in the SPL, more so than previous years, we've seen a lot of managers being sacked. Jonas and Davison today being sacked by St. Johnstone. Do you agree with? Did they make the right choice, or should they have?
I don't understand what else. I mean, if I was Callum Davidson, see when he won the double that season, he probably wasn't going to be able to take the club any further. So I think he should have moved on then, personally. But I think it's a bit late to sack him now. But teams are getting desperate and panicking. And I know that might sound hypocritical because we sacked Liam Fox, but that was never the right decision in the first place. We had to get we were bottom of the league and we were heading down with him in charge. We had to go and get someone in that had experience, which is understandable. But I don't think St. Johnstone will get anybody better than Callum Davidson. I mean, what they might be hoping for is someone comes in for 7 games and they get that new manager bounce. But I don't see that happen. It's very difficult to see there being a massive turnaround in their fortunes. And because the boys got to work with the same squad as well for the next 7 games. So it's not as if he can go and bring in any players or anything like that. I think it's just a panic move because they're obviously desperate not to go down, you know.
I think they'll regret that.
I think they'll regret that as well, because they've been dragged into the relegation zone, like into the battle now. They're only 4 points behind us. They were sitting 10 points behind us a couple of weeks ago. But I just don't see. I just think it's a knee-jerk reaction. I think they should have stuck it out with them. You know what I mean?
Do you know what it was?
Well, we spoke about that. Mind they were in a bit of a sticky situation last year, and there was talk of him getting sacked.
But then he turned it round,
Aye, and we spoke about that game. The guy just won them 2 cups.
Yeah, because
he was entitled to try and he was entitled to the time to try and turn it around. And as you said there, Jonas, he done it. So I think he should have just done that again.
Just before the World Cup, right? They were 6th. And I think they were nearly 4 wins out of 5 or something like that. And they were 6th, but after the World Cup, they dipped. They only won 1 game, and that was in February. Like that World Cup actually disrupted a lot of football clubs' form as well, Jonas, in December.
The thing is as well, like you can use the World Cup and say, okay, we were playing decent, we had decent momentum prior to the World Cup and things like that. But at the end of the day, every club's in the same boat. They knew the World Cup was happening. So I don't think you can use that as an excuse. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, everybody knew it was happening, and it's the same for every team. Everybody had to stop because of the World Cup. It's not like half a dozen teams continued playing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Maybe
like,
clubs like St Johnstone should have used that break, Paul, to improve. I mean,
like I
they
said, they were sitting
had a month free kind of no games, Jonas, just all coaching. So why not use that month to improve?
Maybe they
St
thought
Johnstone,
that
they didn't have any players away to the World Cup. Do you know what I mean?
they only had Waterspoon for Canada, and to be fair, they were maybe thinking to themselves, "Oh, we're sitting pretty in sixth place. We'll just use this as a bit of a holiday." They maybe gave the team 2-3 weeks off, which is what I was angry about with United, the predicament that we were in. We ended up giving them about 3 weeks off or something out of the 5 or 6 weeks that we never played. And for a team bottom of the league, I thought it was an absolute nonsense, personally.
Of course you would, Jonas. Yeah, exactly. Like it was like Celtic. We went to Australia and played games.
But Jonas is saying there, you'd have had them in training like dogs every day, Jonas, wouldn't you?
Yeah, they maybe gave them a week off or something just to let them recover a wee bit.
But Jonas, that
injuries, but
that as well, Jonas, like what you were saying there a while ago about bringing in Goodwin, he needed an experienced manager, and that just shows a difference between the experienced manager and Ian Fox. I couldn't see Goodwin do that. You know, giving players 3 weeks off during a World Cup break. I really couldn't.
Goodwin came out and basically, Stephen Fletcher said in the press last week that United weren't fit enough. So that's a damning indictment of the. And I think what he's done as well is he's ripped up a lot of the sports science nonsense, because they were guided by all the sports science garbage, training 2 or 3 times a week and everything, and saying that gave you maximum potential. Goodwin had them in over the international break and basically treated it like a mini pre-season. They had them in every day, Sundays, cancelled all days off, got them running, and it's been proven the last couple of wins that the fitness levels have improved. You know what I mean? It's been backed up by the results since he's came in. So,
well, he has, Jonas. Like he's two wins in a row, and you're out at the bottom. I know you're leveling points with Killy, but going on what Killy performance today, like I can actually see Kilmarnock go down.
No, like I say, I mean, the psychological boost that being off the bottom of the league is massive as well, because like Goodwin said in his post-match interview yesterday, that when we look at the league table tonight, we're no longer at the foot of the table. So that has a massive psychological impact, and it also heaps the pressure on other teams. And like I say, we've been able to drag St Johnstone into it as well. There's a couple of teams above us starting to look over their shoulder now as well that were probably comfortable, you know what I mean?
It's like Mark, like Goodwin kind of got him out of that rot, didn't he? Like, as Jonas was saying there, like the psychological thing of being off the foot of the table, being down there for so long, fighting that scrap, you know?
Because even that, it is a case of just even saying to the players, well, look how far you've came for came in. Look how far you've came in the last couple of, do you know what I mean? For the bottom of the table, you're still in the mix, but you're no actually right down in any of the 2 dangerous places anymore. So you just keep working away, doing what I'm telling you today. Note your melting, and we'll be safe.
That's it. And the thing that, like what you said there, Mark, was getting 2 back-to-back wins with Livingston to come at home next week before the split. I mean,
I was just going to say that you should fancy that win there, Jonas.
You'd be looking to win that, especially at home, because you're not having to go to that plastic park. And they're not in. Okay, they won yesterday against St Johnstone, but they've not been in great form, Livy. And we've got confidence in that now going into it. But I said that I would have took another 3 points before the split, which would have been I would have took another win, which we got yesterday. But now, if we can get another victory, if we can get 3 wins on the spin going into the split, when you play all the teams round about you, that's got confidence, you know.
Evening, John. Thanks very much for coming in again, mate. Nice to see you.
Just going on the plastic pitches there, like if Kilmarnock do go down, if we only live in next season, like should the clubs have a vote? Should or would it make a difference, Mark, if they had a vote, like to get rid of these plastic pitches?
You would need to give them an amount of time, but Paul.
I know they couldn't do it in the season, exactly.
You can't just turn around and say in the summer, right, we're not allowing any of these absolute garbage, nonsense plastic pitches in the league. But I've
to be fair, Mark, like Kilmarnock's pitch is a much better artificial pitch than Livingston, because Livingston just looks like sand.
But that it doesn't say much for it, does it, Paul?
No.
It's I don't know, because whether it's this sky glass, whatever it is, and that. But see, even watching it on the telly, it kind of hurts my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
See the way I don't know whether it's the way the light hits it or what it is, but the patterns on it and stuff like that kind of hurts my eyes if I stare at it for too long on the telly.
Because I'm very surprised, Jonas, like that these pitches are left in profession. I know like they have to kind of have them over in Scandinavia and stuff like that because of the snow and stuff like that over there. But in the SBL, like I don't know, like I'm not a big fan of them anyway, you know. But
No,
how they left, like, you know,
it's a difficult subject. Like I obviously don't want them, but then you would have to then, as the governing body, you would have to then compensate these clubs because see a lot of these clubs, the reason they've got plastic pitches is one, it means that they don't need to have an external training base, which saves them money, and also these plastic pitches get hired out to like the community for
seven nights a week. But 7 nights a week, there's something going on them. It's like Aki's, Jonas. That's what it is down there.
And the thing is, these clubs need these pitches probably to generate extra revenue that they're not getting through the gates. Especially when you look at the likes of Hamilton or Livingston that carry pretty small supports, they're not getting it through the gates, so they have to generate revenue somehow. So if the governing body was to then say, right, everything's got to go back to grass, I mean, Livingston turned around and said it would cost them £1 million to get their pitch up, so you can understand why they'd be against it, and there'd have to be some sort of funding put in place for them to sort of compensate for the fact that they're then having to get rid of the pitch.
And then it's a case of all the other clubs are saying, well, how come they're getting money because of their pitch?
Yeah, that's the problem, and then it opens a can of worms because then clubs will turn around and say, well, we've got a grass park, but we didn't get any extra help with the upkeep of our pitches. I mean,
clubs
the upkeep of a grass park.
Are you saying clubs now or just club? Because I'm looking at Rangers complaining about that. I know the club is getting money and they're not getting money.
That would be hot, probably.
Yeah, and the problem you've got, like you say, is as well, like, for example, the maintenance of a grass park, right, I would imagine it'll be more costly. The equipment that you'll need to maintain a grass pitch, the fertilizers, the way you've got the water, the lamps that, you know how they put the heat lamps on it to grow like the grass in certain parts. So I would imagine that an artificial park, I mean, I'm not an expert on groundskeeping, so I'm not 100% sure on what it entails cost-wise, but just off the top of my head, I could imagine that it'll cost you more for the upkeep of a plastic park, a grass park, sorry.
Aye, definitely. It's just say that all the irrigation stuff and the water and the heat lamps. I mean, they're no cheap to run them when they've got them on for, you know, I mean, my Celtic kid, them out half the park for about 2 weeks, wasn't it, Paul? You know, I mean, they're no cheap in that, but I mean, who was it? Was it Rosenborg we played? Was it Rosenborg?
But the difference, Mark, that was like grass.
Aye, that was, I mean, I had no complaints about that for an artificial pitch.
That was grass.
Bobby saying use the old red ash pitches. Oh. You're all right, Bobby, man. Get a slide tackle name.
Hell, you know about that. If you slide, Jesus Christ! I remember going home and I was ripped after playing.
A skin graft.
Yeah, but you really. I used to have the padded goalkeeper pants on with Denmark, and I still go home and the fucking legs were ripped. You know
I was actually thinking about them. What game was I watching? I can't even mind what it was I was watching the other night, and that's what came into my head. Can you mind Paul? But goalkeepers, all their tops had padded elbows and padded shoulders, and like their thighs and hips had padded.
Yeah, sure, Mark. I remember,
but they don't have them now.
No, I remember going back there, like to Italian 90 there when Ireland had the grey goalkeeper jerseys that Pakibano row.
Aye.
And when you buy that at the time, the elbows would have the padding on them. It was when you bought them, they had the padding, and if you bought the short, like no keepers, no lights wear padded.
Aye, unless they wear something underneath them, Paul. To be honest, I don't know, but it's still going to hurt you when you're diving on and your hips crashing off the ground. Maybe it's underneath. They'll get cycling shorts with padding or that in them.
The grass pitches nowadays as well, back in even the early 90s, a lot of them were like a brick. You know what I mean? The way the pitches, but modern groundskeeping's that good now that like diving on that, it's a pretty soft surface than most of the grass parks now. But I can understand it would be more painful to be a goalkeeper on an artificial surface because it's obviously a harder surface. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that's why I'm surprised, Jonas, like you don't see the likes of Hart or the Kilmarnock goalkeeper there today, Walker, like they're just wearing shorts and have their socks up to their knees. Like, you know what I mean? Sure, God, if they're sliding there, it's going to rip you. Like, or is it just different surface or what? You know?
What was it? See, like when you played on it with Mikey's game, Jonas, with Mikey's charity game. See, like on that kind of surface. What would happen if you've done a right hefty sliding tackle on that? Are you getting a burn or anything like that?
No, it wasn't like Falkirk's artificial pitch is actually quite a decent surface. Like
it looked all right for the sidelines anyway. It looked kind of grassy like to me for the sidelines.
Because there was a couple of times when I got taken down in that on it, like when I was running with the ball and I got fouled and whatever, and like when you fell over it, it wasn't overly painful. Like, you know what I mean? So these pitches
you're not actually getting a burn, because I'd imagine on like that Livingston pitch, if you get a bad slide tackle.
That Livingston pitch, Mark, reminds me of an old hockey pitch.
And the thing is, as well, they pitches are they're heavily watered, they pitches as well, though. So that takes the edge off it. Like, you know, it's not like you're playing on them dry, so you get more friction. So most of the artificial parts are well watered before playing on them, you know.
I don't know.
I take it when you like fancy United fitting an artificial pitch.
Nah, no chance, mate. I'd be raging about that.
I don't know.
I mean, even when you kind of nitpick about it, I suppose what we've got at Celtic Park is an artificial pitch.
Hybrid,
it's a bit of a mixture of both like grass and plastic. But I mean, we've spoke about how bad that's been acting up since we fitted it. So it's weird. Like, who is it? Like Wembley and all that. Use the same one as Celtic, and yet yours kind of cuts up, but it doesn't seem to do it for all these other big teams that do it. Is it maybe something to do with the weather in Scotland?
Yeah,
that plays a part in why these teams keep plastic pitches as well.
Yeah, the weather does play a factor, but we've got new ground staff this season, and our park's been in pretty much immaculate all season. Obviously, in the winter, you'll get the bald goalmouths and things, and like maybe at the corner areas, there's slightly less grass, but our park traditionally sort of deteriorates over winter time. But apart from like the goalmouths, our pitch has actually been in really good nick this year because we've got. I can't remember where the guy came from, but he's won awards in that. Like they went out and spent a lot of money on the ground staff in that this year to put down a better surface in that. And
that's good investment, I think, but Jonas, for a club to do things like that, it really is.
It is, like, because it improves your standard of football as well, Mark. As we say, like, to maintain the ball and to be able to play for it. It actually, your pitch, Jonas, now would actually suit the way Jim Gooden wants to play.
Yeah, because the way he wants to play is get the ball on the deck and pass it. You know what I mean? So it is a surface that's better suited to that type. And you ask any player at any level, you want to be playing on as good a surface you can possibly play on. You know what I mean?
How yesterday, Jonas, the pressure on young McGrath taking that penalty today and to hold his nerve, like, because it was either 1 point or 3 points. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well. He's done it 2 weeks in a row now. He converted against the penalty, and he was composed. I wasn't too nervous. I was nervous last week. I never even watched the penalty. I just shut my eyes and then I just let the noise round the boot. I had to ask my mate after what side the penalty went, and then I had to get it back on the highlights because I couldn't watch. I was too nervous. But I had confidence that he was going to tuck it away yesterday. But like you say, it's every penalty in our situation's a pressure situation.
Exactly, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that lifted us off. There was a difference between going off the bottom of the league or going a point behind County. So with them having already lost, and with you boys having Kilmarnock, it was an opportunity for us. It was likely that our rivals were going to drop points this week, so it was good that we capitalised on it.
No, I was when I actually saw it, like I saw your Twitter post and I gave you a like. But in fairness, Mark, 2 wins out of 2, I actually can see just going by what I see today, and I can actually see Kilmarnock and Ross County being the 2 teams there.
I think that's who it's going to be. And well, as we said earlier on, we don't know what's going to happen with St Johnstone.
St Johnstone are right in the
yeah. You see, but that's a big call by them, Jonas. Like it is.
I think I'm just looking at the league table now, Jonas. I'd say I wouldn't be surprised if you finished 8th.
Well, that'll be the aim, to try and push on, and because even things like Jim Goodwin said that yesterday in his post-match interview as well, that every position's prize money for the club and it helps your budget for next year and all that kind of stuff. So our aim should be to obviously first of all, cements, make sure, I mean, we're not going to get carried away yet. We've only won 2 wins in a row and we're still in a bit of bother. But another couple of wins and we can hopefully start looking up the table, you know what I mean?
There's a wee bit of light at the end of the tunnel for you now, do you know what I mean? It's been out the bottom 2 places.
Correct.
Which I told you last time you were on, didn't I? See, I do know what I'm talking about. You need to start listening to me a bit more.
The thing is as well, mate, I'm out of all my pals, even in the group chat and that, right, I'm always the one that's saying that we've got like survival, and I've been getting it pelters all year because there's some boys that are a bit more negative and some boys that are, and I'm always an optimistic sort of guy, and I've always said that I still believe that we could stay up there, and I'm starting
when I saw you bought Goodwin in the honest, I had confidence that Goodwin would keep you up, but if you would have kept Fox, I say you'd be gone already. There would have been a gap there, I think. You know,
the good thing is that the good thing for me was the fact that we were still in touch.
Yeah, exactly.
Because any other season, it's a miracle that we hadn't won. Our win last weekend was our first win in the league since the 1st of January. So, I mean, to go on a run as bad as that and still be in with a shout of staying up, you know what I mean?
When you put it like that, it's kind of... Just when you're talking about the boy McGhee taking out a penalty, what did you think of Kyogo the day taking out a penalty?
Shocking.
I mean, I'm not getting into all the thing with Kyogo again, but I was talking about it with Mike earlier on and that. But I mean, what's with all the laughing and the... Do you know what I mean? As if I'm not saying I knew he was going to miss it, but it took that long, and the laughing and smiling and joking stuff and that. I thought, what's he playing at doing that?
Mm-hmm. Thing is, it's one of these things, is it, mate? It's like if the penalty goes in, then nobody says anything, and everybody will be like, "Oh, he was right to be calm, and he knew what he was doing," and everything. These kind of things only backfire when it doesn't go in. You know what I mean? And that's when you leave yourself open to a bit of a backlash. But at the end of the day, just get your head down and get it put in the net, and then have a laugh and joke after you've done your job.
Mm-hmm.
Time. I don't know why Kyogo took it, to be honest, either.
But I was looking at Mark maybe more Riley to take that or something, or maybe Callum Mack to take it. I
was going to say Callum Mack. I don't know why he didn't step up.
Mm-hmm. How would you feel with him today, actually, Mark, in that more forward role, and Iwasa in the centre?
Well, even though he's playing that kind of further forward, but Paul, he's still the main man. He's still the man that's pulling the strings. It's more like when we're a defensive Paul, Iwasa becomes a CDM, but going forward, it's still Cal Mack that's pulling the strings.
The way I was looking at it today, Mark, and it was kind of a bit throughout the bit of the game. I noticed that we kind of had 2 pivots. McGregor and Iwasa were kind of next to each other. You know?
Aye.
You know, is that something maybe down the line, Mark? Because, so I know you want to just switch back to Celtic, but if you saw there last week against the Rangers game, Mark, he kind of went to a 4-4-2 or 4-2-2-2.
Aye.
When he bought Owen. And that's how the reason we conceded those 2 goals, Mark, is he took Maeda out of the left. Maeda was keeping Tavernier quiet, Mark. Do you know what I mean? Tavernier wasn't getting forward when Maeda was there. And the minute Maeda switched off to the right and Yasser came in, that's when Tavernier started getting forward. You know?
Tavernier's second goal, I mean, we've got to... AJ was a bit caught out of position, do you know what I mean? But I thought Hart could have done a lot better with that second goal.
Yeah, his kind of positioning wasn't
the best. I thought he could have maybe made a mere... It's what we've spoke about as well, Paul. It seems to be more and more people are saying like Hart's a kind of weak link in the team. What do you think, Jonas, about Hart that season and going forward? We spoke about goalkeepers a lot with Siegrist and that, you know what I mean? But what do you think of Hart this year?
I think he's maybe, he doesn't seem to make that many big saves, like the one against Rangers he probably should have got to. He did make a good save today for the boys' header, to be fair to him, but he's probably not, he doesn't get tested very often, but you still need to be able to, he still has to make the big saves on occasion, you know what I mean?
And again, I mean, penalties is just at no hope.
He's 36 now, Mark, next month. Joe Hart. 36. You know, I know
I think it'll be a new keeper. I think it'll be a new keeper coming in the summer.
Like, I have to say it, like, because it was all over Twitter.
Ryan Jack's going to Dundee United.
I saw how aged Adam McGregor went when he was chasing the otter to the ball last week.
I know, that was funny. That was a funny one, that.
It looked like he was towing a caravan when he was running.
That's what I wanted. And then there was people putting up on Twitter grey hair and everything.
Aye, I know.
You know, like we're saying, like all we've been hearing, Jonas, this week, like there's all the meltdown and we'll come back better next year, we'll sign more players, and as if Celtic are going to stand still, like, you know what I mean, or Celtic not going to sign players, but they have about, I think I named 12 players that could be leaving them this season, like, and the financial trouble they're in, where do they think these players are going to come from?
Yeah, no, I don't see them, like, have it. I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to try and break the bank again and end up combusting themselves again just to try and stop Celtic winning the league. So no idea what they're going to do with having to, because they're facing another rebuild, whereas Celtic are just sort of, Celtic will add one or two depending on who goes, but Celtic seem to have always have a contingency plan. If they're starting to get sounded out for a star player leaving, there's always someone brought in, sort of, so that there's a conveyor belt. Whereas Rangers just seem to it seems to be a case of being reactive. You know what I mean? Waiting what happened to see what Celtic do, and then trying to chuck money at it. Because
Mark, there does seem to be something kind of strange going on in the club at the minute with the fella Park kind of leaving, Ross Wilson after leaving. Like, I don't think things are good at that inside that club at the moment.
I think there's something going wrong. Their accounts were late in and everything. Do you know what I mean? I think there's. I mean, I know a lot of them didn't like Dougie Park, but I mean, he put a lot of his own money in and tried to steady the boat. But that's the thing about it, Paul. They're looking for a sugar daddy to come in and pump money into the club. But these days are long gone. Do you know what I mean? Unless it's going to be one of these, like a Qatari or a Saudi conglomerate stuff. But they're not going to come in and buy Rangers. Do you know what I mean? Because and I've said this before, Paul. It's like when we talk about like these super leagues and stuff like that, and should Celtic and Rangers get down to England and stuff like that? Rangers are in no position to finance that leap. Do you know what I mean? Celtic, we've got a lot of money. We've got money in the bank. We've got a lot of assets. We've got good sponsorship deals. So we could get down to England and maybe we would need to take out some kind of loan, maybe, I don't know what to say, 50 million, 100 million or something, just to cover his, see, for that like first 2 years or something like that. But Rangers would need maybe 300 million. Do you get what I mean? They're millions behind us in that. So it seems like we come to talking stuff like the differences between the clubs. I'd say that the actual gap between Celtic and Rangers now is as much as it was when Murray was, his tax stuff. Do you get what I mean? But with us, when they were miles and miles in front of us, I think we're miles and miles more in front of them than they were with us back then.
For sure.
I just don't see how they can, how there's any feasible financial plan for them to keep never mind catch up with us, but keep up with us. Right away, we've got 10,000 more season tickets a year. We've got more match day income, we've got better sponsorship deals, we've got everything. So they are really looking for some kind of mad, I don't know, raging Rangers fan for somewhere to find like half £5 billion in the back of his sofa and decide that he wants to buy Rangers. Because if with all these new, I mean, it's no FFP now, it's FSR or something, and it's all down to sustainability. And Rangers can't sustain the model they're doing to keep up with Celtic because they've not got the income to match that without these confetti shares and stuff like that.
Do you agree with that, Jonas?
Yeah, no, basically spot on with everything he said there. Yeah, I don't think that they've got they're not run well enough to be able to do that. You know what I mean?
And the thing as well, Mark, that's going is going to catch him as well is these shares, because UEFA are going to let this continue.
No,
selling the shares for income. Like I don't think many people kind of came forward as well this time, Mark, when they put out the shares there just to balance the books.
but it's the same people all the time, Paul. It's
Exactly.
the guys on the board and that are putting their hands in their
Do you
pockets.
think maybe, Mark?
And I think
maybe
happened,
that's
Paul.
the reason Dougie Park walked away, because they probably were paying for shares.
No, I think what's happened is that Dougie Park, see, was the transfer fee money for who was it went to Ajax? Bassey, wasn't it? Bassey.
And
Aribo, the Champions League money and all that. I think what's been happened there is the money's come into the club and Dougie Park's took the money he's owed and done a bunk. I think that's what's happened.
He's probably seen the warning signs behind the scenes, knowing that they're hemorrhaging money, and thought to himself, I'm going to get packed back what I can before this goes tits up again.
Aye. I mean, Dave King. I mean, it was on a Rangers forum. I saw it that
King refused money, wasn't it, Mark? A good bit of money to sell his shares, wasn't it?
Aye, but no, that I know. But King had threatened that he was going to take them to court and put them into administration in South Africa, because it was something to do with. Now he's all tied in with these regulations in South Africa. I might have read it wrong, but it was on that follow. Somebody put it up on Twitter, and it was he needed the money paid back to meet the legality of the South African finance stuff. But as soon as you get it paid back, it was just going to give them it back again. And there was something about it, and he's meant to have threatened that he would put them into administration through the South African courts.
Jesus Christ, I didn't read that no at all. Like, and should have going to be up in court again, Mark, soon as well, of the Australian talk kind of putting out that.
They're up in court
cost them 6 to 7 million, I think, isn't it?
That's the elite mob that when they were getting their gear made with Hummel before they went with Castori. They're up, I saw that on Twitter. I know it get put up. Somebody put it up. They were up in court the other day and they're due up again, and they're looking for something like £9.5 million for loss of earnings and stuff like that. What they should have made for selling Rangers kit. It's an absolute basket case.
I don't know, Jonas. Like these warning signs were there last when they went bust the last time. It seems the kind of same warning signs are there again, and the same kind of same sequence has happened again, don't this? You know?
Yeah, it looks as if they basically just went down the same path, except this time instead of EBTs and all the like tax avoidance stuff, it's all to do with they're just hemorrhaging money because of bad business decisions. Like the business acumen has been absolutely horrible. It seems to just be a case of just throw as much money as we can at it to try and stop Celtic winning things. We don't care how it happens, but it just seems that financially the decisions that are getting made there are absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, we've moaned about our board and that, but I mean, come on, Paul. Imagine having our board carrying on like that. It would be a lot of the papers and that as well. But if it was your board, do you know what I mean?
We were mourning, Mark, over signing bad players. Do you know what I mean?
Aye, things like that. But
things like that, like Jonas, like if your board was carried on like that, Jonas at Dundee.
I was just going to say that. How would you feel, Jonas, if your club was pumping out these shares every month to keep the lights on and that? You'd be worrying about it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would obviously realise that something was badly wrong behind the scenes. So, yeah, it just seems that they've not learned from any mistakes that were made in the past, and they've ended up in a hole again because they've not heeded the warnings of what happened previously.
I think Mark Jonas be more worried if he got fish and chips in the VIP, not his 5-star meal. Inside your VIP box, Jonas, you'll see the warning things in.
When I'm at the hospitality, if I didn't get my 3 courses, then you can there's problems, eh?
Exactly. You know, Jesus Christ, man, imagine it. They'd be uproar down in Dundee United Football Club if Jonas not getting the 3 courses.
Nah, there'd be an uproar, all right.
How's the other half live, eh?
I know.
Like this is the next week is the last game, Jonas. Is it before the split, isn't it?
Yeah, aye. So there's a free week the following week because it's the Scottish Cup semi-final weekend, and then the split weekend kicks off the weekend of the 6th of May.
How do you feel about that split, Jonas? Do you think it's a good way for the league, like just for like obviously though for yourselves, like it probably is a good thing like that. You're playing the teams in and around you, and you're not playing the likes of Celtic, Hearts, and Rangers and Aberdeen.
I think it more benefits. I think it benefits the teams that are down the bottom of the league because you're playing against teams round about you. But then what I think it does is it hinders teams higher up the league that are competing for the European places because then they're having to try and get points against better sides. Whereas if there wasn't a split, then if you were chasing a European spot, you could go away to the team bottom of the league on the last day instead of having to go to a team that's third or fourth in the league. So I think it's more suited to the teams doing the bottom end as opposed to the teams higher up.
You would feel bad, Mark, right? We say like if Dundee United were in 6th, right, and they were only 1 point behind 5th, but we say they had a chance to get into Europe then as well. Did you get me? You know,
has that not happened?
It's happened a number of times.
It happened last season as well, I think. Yeah, it happened last season.
The team that there's been a couple of times that the teams that have finished 7th and 8th have finished with more points than the teams that have maybe finished 5th and 6th because they're playing against teams that are they're playing against easier opponents, whereas the teams in the top half are obviously playing against the better sides.
Think a bit kind of don't know, like see if you're sitting like in the like a fifth spot kind of thing. Do you think maybe teams as well kind of, well, that's us, we're safe. We're not going to challenge. We're not going to try and challenge for third. So we might, do you know what I mean? Kind of psychologically, like they're St Mirren sitting in 5th. That's a great season for them if they end up there when the split comes. Will they kind of turn off and just?
I'm not sure. It depends. I think because it's quite tight, like because the Hibs and Hearts have been inconsistent recently, and Aberdeen have sort of got into the European place as well. I think it's probably the European push will be. It's not like anybody's detached. Whereas in previous years, you've maybe had a team that's been in limbo that like they can't finish any higher, but they also can't. They're also too far behind teams that are in Europe, so they're almost on their holidays. So then it's an unfair advantage for certain teams because they boys are maybe thinking about their holidays, whereas there's other teams that are competing for Europe, and you're maybe getting a slightly more subconsciously an easier game against certain sides because some of the teams are in limbo and they're kind of already on their holidays.
What do you think of it, Mark? The split is kind of known. Is there any other league, Jonas, that does this, or
a few European? There is European leagues that do it as well. That split into like.
Does the Belgian league not do some weird thing as well that even like teams that maybe are sitting in third place can end up with champions or something like that? Yeah,
you could be top of the league all season, and then when you go into the split, it's like the league restarts. It's like you're basically back to, it's some weird system like that. And
I mind reading about it with Jack when Jack Hendry was first moved out to Belgium or something. They did a weird thing like that.
You can end up going for being top of the league to finish in 6th or something because the league almost restarts, and then you play like a sort of mini league shootout against maybe 7 or 8 teams or whatever, however they divvy it up. You know what I mean? So your first half of your season's only just about securing like that, and then it's almost like everything's wiped again. Or I'm not 100% if that's the format, but it's some daft format.
Aye. But one of the good things I do think about the split is that it keeps the bottom end always seems to be a lot more interesting.
That's why they should market the bottom. They should televise a lot more of the relegation battle.
Exactly, Jonas, because last year they didn't.
Why does Sky not just say, right, you know what we're going to do in the split? We're going to show instead of showing the teams at the top of the league when Celtic have won the league, we're going to show Ross County, Dundee United, Ross County, Kilmarnock, Killie against St Johnstone, where there's still a lot of stuff riding on it, because I can guarantee you other fans from teams would watch that as well. Like if you're a Celtic supporter, you probably sit there and if you're watching a relegation shootout on a Sunday afternoon, you would tune in to watch it. You know what I mean?
Exactly, because I remember last season, Jonas, it was so close down the bottom last season, and they showed nothing. Do you know what I mean? They showed none of it. They don't show anything until the playoffs. Yeah, the playoffs. You know, I'm not being biased here, Jonas, or thing like, but I can't remember a Dundee United game being on. It's been a while anyway since I saw a Dundee United game on Sky without Rangers or Celtic.
No, it was last. We were live on the TV against Hibs last Sunday, but that's our first televised game that's been against someone that hasn't been Rangers or Celtic.
You know, which is ridiculous, Mark. Like, isn't it?
Yeah, because because neutrals would tune in to watch Dundee United, Aberdeen, Dundee United, Hibs, Dundee United, Hearts, again, like Dundee United, St Johnstone, those sort of bigger games. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They need to find a gap in the TV market and they kind of. I mean, I've spoken about it before. It was like when we first get. It wasn't even Sky. It was BSB, the wee squarial thing we got. And on a Friday night, they showed live German football. And that was us, me and all my pals. That was us on a Friday night. We watched German football, you know what I mean? And they need to find like a wee TV, whether it is a Friday night or a Thursday night or whatever, they need to find a wee niche that they show, not just Celtic and Rangers, but Jonas is saying like Dundee United and Hibs games and stuff like that, other games for Scotland. And because there's guys in England that will watch it because it's football. And that gets them interested in it. And that kind of grows it.
I'd be in favour of games on a Friday night, Jonas, would you?
Obviously, not that there's many perks of being in the Championship. One of the only things that I did enjoy about the Championship was that because we were like the biggest club in the Championship at the time, we used to get a lot of televised BBC Friday night games, and it used to be good because like you used to enjoy a Friday night game. You know what I mean? Then I get us wrong; it was a bastard if you got beat because your weekend was gubbed before it even started because you'd lost. Like, but you know what I mean?
But there's that bigger market for football.
And there's a demand. People want to watch football.
Aye. That's what I'm saying, Jonas. If they find a wee niche, guys will follow. I mean, it's you think about it, I still watch it. It's like that's Soccer AM. Do you still watch that, Jonas?
Nah, it's a lot of nonsense nowadays.
It's absolute garbage, right? But I still watch it through habit. And that's what it is. But like me and my mates with the German football, it became a habit.
Well,
so other guys, I can mind that Italian football coming on as well.
Because it was on Channel 4 when I was a kid. That you used to get the highlights Gazette on a Saturday, and then you get your live game on a Sunday, and like that got me into it. And I'm watching Udinese against Roma just now while I'm on the podcast with you boys, and like I still watch Italian football every week because that got me into it as a kid. You know what I mean?
Aye. And that's what would happen probably across the UK if we could find a wee kind of corner, whether it's a Friday night or whatever, but a wee corner is somewhere.
Or even a Saturday night game, a 6 o'clock game, because they've been doing that with us in Aberdeen this season. Twice we've played Aberdeen, it's been 6 p.m. kickoffs. Even a 6 o'clock, a Saturday tea time kickoff, because there'd be a demand for that. Because everybody, I like Saturday night football, not just because you get an extra 3 hours in the pub prior to the game either, by the way.
As long as we don't get back to Sunday nights at 6 o'clock.
Oh, that can get right in the ocean. Sunday's an absolutely horrible day.
I can mind day kickoffs. 6:05.
You see, Mark, that's
Sunday night.
You see, that's the problem with the media now. They've too much control over the fixtures. You know, like the clubs.
But that's just the modern game.
Yeah, Paul. I know. That's what I'm saying.
You know, and that's the money side. Yeah, I mean,
that's the money side.
The ideal scenario would be like the SPFL and the SFA getting in two-way somebody that could just like run an SPFL channel.
Even if you speak to streaming services, say to Amazon or Netflix or some or like via or like an online, even like Disney Plus or ESPN online or whatever. If you say to them, look,
Babecast.
Babe Station.
Babe Station.
But
Jesus Christ, I don't want to leave the fucking enough. We've enough for Lad of Wolf and Twitter, the mind saying Babe Station. Huh? Jesus Christ.
The internet really is wasted on some folk, is it? Come on.
You know, be all Celtic Rangers fans running up a fucking phone bill.
But that's what they should do. Try and get together and launch like an SPFL streaming.
But did you say, Mark, there was talks about that before? One fella wanted to kind of bring it in, and it was kind of blown out by the SPFL.
Roger Mitchell or
yeah, because it's a similar model of what they've got in Italy. So basically, what they did was they sold the rights. So every game in Italy is now televised in the top league, right? And initially, right, it was quite, fans raged about it because then you were getting hit with, you might have been having to travel half the length of the country for a Monday tea time kickoff or something because the TV companies, and then owners were against it because they were saying, well, it'll detract from people going to the games because the attendances will suffer if every game's on the telly. You know what I mean? And obviously, it's like every other league. Some teams rely more on gate money than others, but now it's got to a point where they've managed to figure out a sort of system that suits everybody and kick-off times that suit the fans. So you're still getting full stadiums, plus you're able to watch the
maximum money.
Yeah.
There's always ways round these things, isn't there? There's always, do you know what I mean? As long as it's no, I mean, you can imagine it a bit with Scottish football, as we said, it's a kind of closed shop. Do you know what I mean? They'd come back with like, all right, we're going to start playing games at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night or some garbage like that.
But see, the thing is, that wouldn't work in, like, you need to take this sort of country's culture into as well, because like the pub culture's big with like British football.
Aye.
The pub owners would be furious if they all of a sudden started putting games on at stupid times on a Sunday or midweek games, because a lot of them rely on, a lot of pubs only survive because of because of a match day. A lot of pubs only open on a Saturday or a Sunday for the football. You know what I mean?
Wow.
The arse has fell out the pub game altogether there in Scotland, Paul.
Has it? Yeah.
Aye.
Like
I don't know what it's like in Dundee, Mikey, but their pubs shut or Hamilton or the last, not just through COVID and that. I think, honestly, the smoking ban kind of killed the pub trade, I think, in Scotland.
The pubs in Dundee haven't actually been too bad. A lot of pubs that have been empty are sort of getting reopened again. So the Dundee pub scene's actually doing reasonably well. Most of the schemes have got a reasonable number of pubs still on the go, you know what I mean? And they're busy. Like, I was out on a Friday night. Normally, I go to a pub near where mum and dad stay, and they've refurbished that, and they have the football on in the lounge and karaoke and a live music and that. And the pub is quite busy. But like I say, football.
Pubs. It's no. They need to show football. They need to serve food. I'm talking about like you're kind of the pubs you just get in for a pint, Mikey, and there's nothing to do but sit and read the paper or talk to the old guy at the end of the bar now. They're all kind of getting off the kind of map.
There's not as much of that now, because even the sort of most of the old man sort of pubs, you notice, will now have the football on. You know what I mean? To get punters through the door. But like we were just talking about with the kickoff times, you would have to take, like I say, Sunday kickoffs wouldn't be any use in Scotland because of the culture. Everybody likes to go for a couple of pints before the game. Not even so much for the drink side, or more like the social side. That's just what you do. You meet your pals in the pub before the game, you know what I mean? So you would have to take that kind of thing into consideration, because for the local economy as well, you know what I mean? Not just the TV audiences.
I learn something new every day. Before we go, Mark, any word on injury-wise to Hayate? Why was Vickers missing yesterday, and Hayate and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, I think Carter Vickers, I believe the videos, Paul, he was in the training video, so I don't think he had any kind of injury. I think
it was the pitch.
He didn't fancy risking on the pitch.
Yeah,
see, after I read that, did Carter Vickers play the last time we played them, Paul?
I think
he picked up an injury, I think, Mark, didn't he?
Was that what it was? See, when I saw Ange saying that about it was because of the pitch, but I couldn't mind if he didn't risk him the last time, or if he'd picked up a knock on it the last time.
I think he did, Mark. I think you could be right.
I think it was the same with Hayate as well. I don't think he wanted to risk him.
I think Hayate, Mark, I think we probably might see him come on with Motherwell, maybe the last couple minutes just to give him game time, but I don't think he's going to risk him until the semi-final, I say. You know?
And Abada, I don't know what's going on with him. Whether to believe all these stories we're reading or...
I don't know, Mark, has he burnt his bridges with the club, do you think? You know?
Well, Ange doesn't seem to... He doesn't like people talking out of school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We saw that with Gio Kamakis and stuff like that, and I mean... Abada, if all these stories and that's true, I said the other week, I don't know if it was, maybe it was on the Discord or something, I said that he burnt his bridges with this, and some of the guys says, oh, he's just injured in that. Well, I mean, again, Ange doesn't talk about injuries, that's just his kind of MO, but if the stories are true, I don't see how we can come back into the team, to be honest, Paul.
Especially, like, the thing was, the honest, right? the club we bought him for, right? All right.
Mhm.
His previous manager came out when he was international duty and basically said Abad is going to be gone at the end of the season. All right, he wants to leave, and this is his previous club who was saying that like they might have a sell-on fee as well, Mark. Do you get me?
Aye.
And plus, I'm always wary of a
Changing
player that
agents.
changes agent.
Aye. I said that with Juranovic to you, Paul. As soon as
Yeah, but
Juranovic
he's
changed
the
his
same
agent, I
agent
said
now,
he was
Mark, as
away. And
Juranovic.
he's away with him as well.
Yeah, he's gone to Juranovic agent as well, which you kind of put two and two together, Jonas, with all the stories and changing agent. I think he'd be one player that's out the door in the summer.
That's normally a prelude to someone moving, isn't it? The agent thing's usually a telltale sign.
You know, it's only one reason like they're doing it, Mark, and is to get a bigger move. Like, you know what I mean?
Try and generate a move, yeah.
You know,
or it's a young player kind of just looking for. Well, I mean, he was with the hands. It's not as if he was like with a wee numpty guy. Do you know what I mean? Like some young players will move agents if they can take him up a level with like their sponsorships and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? But the hand knows that game outside in. So there's a reason that he went away to that other guy, and it must be. What do you think he's worth, Jonas? We kind of neutral perspective, Abada.
Probably between 12 to 15 or something like that in today's market.
See, we were talking about it in the live chat today during the game, and that some of the guys said that 10 million they would take him. I'd say like between 10, 15. If we could get 12 and a good percentage of a sell-on fee, I'd be quite happy with that, I think.
Yeah, and I don't think you'd be wide off the mark with that shout.
Because let's face it, he's not really set the head on fire this season, has he?
Nah, he started off all right, but then I say,
he started off like dynamite.
As soon as all this nonsense was spouted by agents, and then it all seemed to come out during the World Cup break, and then like you say, his ex-club manager, and then it was the Israeli, was it no the Israeli manager?
Yeah, the Israeli manager. I think it was the Israeli manager. Jonas, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'm sure because Mikey, like obviously, like because we speak about United and Celtic, like he keeps me up to date with what's going on, and I'm sure Mikey was telling me that his international manager was running his mouth during the World Cup, and there was bits and pieces getting said and things like that. So I reckon if that's the way it's going, then normally it's a sign that they'll be on their way.
A partner of the ways.
Mm.
Well, other than that, Mark, like it seems a happy camp, like you know what I mean. You know, Ange kind of doesn't let this kind of stuff run into his squad, like we were saying there. The minute G. Marcus Ange said they wanted away, they were out the door. You know, if you don't want to be here, grand, you're out the door, gone. You know,
and that's it. And see how you think about it, Paul. I always maintain as well. See if players the way they, and I know it's a dirty business, football transfers. Do you know what I mean? The way deals are worked behind the scenes and that. But if a player wants to leave, right, that's fair enough. There's still a way to go about that. Do you know what I mean? You still go and tell the manager, look, I'm off at the end of the season. I've got my agent looking for another club. Blah blah blah. But while I'm here, I'll begin your 100% training games and that. You can rely on me. But I'm away at the end of the season. No manager's going to put a player in cold storage. It comes to them and does that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Being open and honest about it. It's when they start being sneaky and, I mean, a bad away in international. I mean, how many times? But see the thing about it, years ago, it used to be players went away in international duty and then these stories came out and then the next thing it was, it's been misinterpreted and mistranslated and he didn't actually say this stuff. But see, these days with the way social media and that is, you can't get away with that now. Do you know what I mean? If they're saying something, it's there in black and white that they've said it and they can't get away from that. And I've said it before, Paul, Ange doesn't suffer fools. So if he thinks that a player's coming at the madam, I think that's them burnt bridges and they'll be bombed out. See if these stories are true, I'll be surprised to see a bad in a Celtic strip again, to be honest.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Just before we go. I was watching a documentary today yesterday about French players, the greatest French players. It was on the Polish television, and I don't know, I'm showing a bit of age here now, and I'm sure you remember. Who remembers the French? He was a tiny little fella, Jean-Pierre Papin.
Aye.
What a player. My God, wasn't he? You know?
Aye,
do you remember him, Jonas?
Yeah, I do. I remember who he is, aye.
Yeah, Jesus, man. He was a tiny little fella, like, but the skill.
Brilliant.
Was he not at Marseille?
Marseille, Mark, yeah. Marseille, yeah. Marseille, they lost.
The best French player ever was Eric Cantona. That was it. Nothing else comes ever close to that.
Yeah, but he never got the French team either because of his antics, didn't he? He was a nutter, wasn't he?
Still the best French player ever.
You know, he was.
I know he wasn't, but he was to me. Do you know what I mean? Probably.
But Cantona, Mark, was freaking.
Probably
he single-handedly
Platini.
won Manchester United trophies. You understand? Cantona.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was a
You
great
know?
player.
I loved Eric Cantona.
Well, like
Not as
you
much
watch,
as not as
but
much
you
as
watch
Roy
football,
Keane,
Mark, right? You watch football back then, right? All these great players, right? Like Manchester United, you had Barcelona, you Real Madrid, who had big stars, right? And then, Jonas, you look at the Chelsea today that signed all these big stars, and they're shambles, just a shambles of a club, Chelsea.
But you can't just buy players and then hope that you throw them together, and then you need to build a team spirit. You need a manager that can get the best out. You need to sign players that fit a system. If you just randomly go and sign all these superstars, you're not. You just end up with a team of individuals.
Yeah, like going out there, buying all these players, and buy no striker, Mark. Do you get me? You know, no striker.
I know.
You know, like it just shows, like for me, it shows like all these business people, right, coming into football, right, just to make a buck, just to make money or to win a trophy, but they don't have nothing about football. He actually taught the Fan Brody on his comments that Chelsea automatically qualify for the Champions League every year. You know what I mean?
Nonsense.
That he gets his money back every year because they qualify for the Champions League, and people are going, no, you kind of have to qualify for that. But it just shows the business people, Mark, coming into football, don't this? You know.
But the thing about that is, Paul, it was shocking what they done with Abramovich with Chelsea. I mean, I don't know. What do you think of that, Jonas? The way Abramovich get treated with just the government and that? They just basically took a club and spent billions of pounds on half him.
Yeah, he just felt he was just a victim of his nationality, was he? Because you're a maniac when leader of your country decides to go to war, then you get all your assets and that frozen. Do you know what I mean? It's mental.
And yet they let that other mob buy Newcastle and things like that. It's kind of double standards, that, isn't it?
They're investigating them now, Mark, for something else. You're going, why wasn't this done when they were buying the club? Do you know?
It's all hypocrisy. There's brown envelopes passed about at the highest level. Is there? Someone's getting their palm greased.
Oh, definitely. You know.
I mean, the amount of money that's actually bouncing about in the game in England's frightening. And that's just what we know. What Jonas is saying there. Imagine the amount of backhanders that we don't know and that's flying about down in England when players are getting transferred for the fees they earn. I don't even clubs staying in the league and stuff like that. I think that England. I honestly think that league is absolutely corrupt. I really do.
Nah,
I couldn't tell you the last time I watched a pub league game. I really couldn't. And it's just absolute garbage. There's just things that going down in there that doesn't go in any other league in the world, and they just get away with it.
Yeah.
Why? Like, how do they get away with it? You get me? You know, that's the questions. Like, is it just so big now, Mark, because they have so much money that they won't touch it?
That seems to be the thing. I mean, even other leagues in Europe are starting to complain about it. Do you know what I mean? Other big, like, what is it, the big five? They're all starting to complain about how England are just kind of monopolising the full entire game.
What these clubs then kind of doing the same, then Mark, going back about 10, 5, you know what I mean? About 10 years ago before. I mean, because what you were saying there, Jonas, when you started watching Italian 19 Channel 4, that was one of the biggest leagues in the world at the time, wasn't this?
Yeah. You know? And the stock's rising again, and the proof is in the fact that they've got 3 teams in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, so the Italian game's back on the up. Like you said, I would like to see even like the TV rights, everything that goes on down there. There's obviously brown envelopes getting passed about at high levels down there for it to get away with what they get away with, you know.
I've said to you before, Paul, about that Football is Fixed blog or something like that. And I mean, a lot of it goes right over my head, and some of the stuff's redacted. But they put up documents and stuff, and it's sort of David, like see like the gambling companies and stuff like that are involved in the game and stuff. You know who's at the mid? Know who's meant to be right bang on the middle of it? John Cahoon. I think John Cahoon that played with Celtic when he was younger, but he was at Hearts most of his career. He's meant to be the kind of centre of all this kind of football fixing stuff and all that. It's absolutely crazy. I'll find this website and I'll send you a link to it. I don't know how much it's true, but they seem to have documents and stuff like that, so I don't know. I came across it. You know when I came across it? I came across it when Leicester won the league. And I read that and it was like this had been fixed and blah blah blah. And I was sitting, it was one of the things I was sitting there just half stoned out my face reading it. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, that could be right. And I said to some of the English heads and that, and I said to Ed too about it. And they were like, there's always that kind of thing going on behind the scenes. There's always, and I was like, I can't believe it. A league with that kind of exposure. I mean, but we saw with Sam Allardyce live on the telly. Taking guns. Do you know what I mean?
When he got set up by that fake, remember the newspaper?
That fake shake for the News of the World and that. And you're thinking, well, that's one guy being. What else goes on? I mean, like Davy Moyes there was a few transfer deals that he'd been kind of.
David Moyes was floating around his daughter. That's where he was to get players in.
Harry Redknapp was.
Harry Redknapp.
You know,
what was the player? Dr. Strangelove in there. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah,
Kaiser. Kaiser.
What was that player? Do you remember the famous transfer dealings? I think was it Bobby Zamora? I think was it. He turned up at a team that Harry Redknapp was driving it, and he thought the deal was done.
No, Odom Wingy.
Yeah, remember that.
He drove to the training ground at QPR.
Yeah.
Oh, aye, I minded that. I minded that on Sky Transfer Day. Aye.
Like, imagine that, and then going back to what a club you honest at the time, like, you know what I mean? Jesus.
Nonsense.
You know, it just shows player power now, Mark, as well in football. Like that's going back nearly 10 years ago, but player power now has actually got stronger. They can get managers sacked. You know.
Oh, definitely. That's what happens. But that's what happens at, Jonas at Dundee United. We've kind of seen that into it when players kind of down tools and that. But that's what's going on at these clubs like Chelsea and that, because these managers coming in and trying to stamp their own personality in the team and that stuff like that. And these players with all their egos just, I'm not having that. And that's it. The manager's not got a chance of any success.
Did that kind of happen at Dundee United, Jonas? Like, did it like not say the player down tools, like, but did like the senior players like Charlie McGlue and McFadden, like, would they have said like, this fella doesn't know what he's doing, like in Fox, like, you know what I mean, we're going to get relegated? Do you think that maybe happened at Dundee or something like that?
I don't think that Fox sort of threw himself under the bus just with his tactics and that, but yeah, no, there definitely is that, because once the players turn on a manager, it's always the manager that pays for it with his job. It's never the players, is it?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It is. Teams can get beat for 10 games. No player ever loses their job at it. I mean, imagine. That wee Potter guy walking into Chelsea. That wee guy never had a hope in hell. No success there.
I said that to you, Mark. Well, I said that to you, Mark, when he was appointed there, that job's too big for him.
Jamie Carragher made a good point on Monday Night Football a few weeks ago. He said, if you're Chelsea, you don't go for Thomas Tuchel, one of the best managers in the world, to Graham Potter. Nonsense. You should have stuck with Tuchel. That owner just punted Tuchel as like when he came in to like sort of try and put his stamp on it, like sort of announce his arrival. It was an absolute nonsense sack it. And they've turned into a basket case since they got rid of Tuchel, and they deserve everything they get. Another world-class manager there.
Yeah, and now he's in charge of Bayern Munich. And the story about Nagelsmann, supposedly why he got the sack, Jonas. During the international break, he went on a holiday skiing, and supposedly Oliver Kahn wasn't impressed with it.
Aye, and there's stuff getting leaked in that, like team news was getting leaked.
And everything that day. He was supposed to be the one that was leaking the team and everything, marked to the media and everything. Nagelsmann, you know.
That's who Chelsea want as manager now, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, Chelsea, Spurs. You know, like in Spurs, another club that are a shambles of a club, like. You know.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, sure. What his name? The fella, the old Spanish coach, Luis Enrique. There, he actually thought he had the job, all right, and he was planning to take it. And he found out in the Spanish media that Frank Lampard is going to be hired at the end of the season. Do you know what I mean?
Nonsense.
You know, Jesus Christ, the game was good today for the half an hour, and then it started farting. Yeah, it's kind of, we spoke about that early on, Mark. It's just with Celtic at the moment, they kind of stop off in this.
Aye. We seem to get one good half, and that's it, whether it's the first half or whether it's the second half.
You know, I think, Mark, you maybe think teams are Celtic nearly better off conceding first. We seem to kind of play our best football then, don't we?
Sometimes, Paul, that's needed. It gives the team a boot up the backside.
Right, lads, we let it there. Thanks, Jonas, again for coming on.
No bother, lads.
Pleasure
Thanks
when
for
you're
having
coming
us. I'll speak to you again before the end of the season. We'll do an end of season review or something.
Oh, definitely, boy.
Aye, definitely. We'll have you on before then, bud. No bother.
Exactly. Mark, we'll close the show.
Right, no bother, Paul. Thanks very much, Paul. And again, Jonas, for coming on. All the guys that joined the live chat, hope you enjoyed it. Everybody that listens back, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, whatever, hope you enjoy what we're doing. Remember and hit the like button. If you know how, leave a comment. And again, be another wee shout out at the end of the show to wee John. We're thinking of you, wee man. God bless. Hail, hail. Good night, lads.
Cheers, lads. See you later.
Right, Jonas.
Thanks, bye.